This is Jocko Podcast number 121 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
I'm going to tell you a story. And this is a story of war and pain and love and death. And this story, this is a heroic story. Quite possibly one of the most heroic stories. And at the same time, this story is also a tragedy. And it is quite possibly one of the most tragic stories. This is a story of a father and a son. This is a story that spans 6 wars, each one more difficult than the next. This is a story of life. And like all stories of life, this story ends the way that all lives end. This story ends in death. There is no storybook ending. There is no walking off into the sunset. There is no mercy and no quarter and no remorse from death. And as I prepared to tell this story, there were times when I started to decide against it, where I began to think it would be too much. But there was another part of me that spoke louder and spoke stronger, and that other part of me that knows that to hide from the darkness is only to allow darkness to grow, and I will not do that. I will tell this story, and this story that I am going to tell is not just a story. It is not made up. The story is the real story of the real lives of 2 men, 2 Marines, a father and a son, who fought many battles, both literally and metaphorically, and who did their best to fight and win. And who we can both learn a lot from. But we can only learn if we listen. We can only learn if we study, and we can only learn if we remember what these men went through, what they did, how they lived, and how they died. I will begin the story with the father. He is the most famous Marine in the history of the Marine Corps. He is one of the most highly decorated men in American military history. He's the only man ever awarded 5 Navy Crosses. His name is Louis Puller, better known as Chesty Puller. And he is, to most Marines, the ultimate Marine, the godfather of the Marine Corps. To this day, the mascot of the Marine Corps, which is a bulldog, that bulldog is named Chesty, after Chesty Puller. And they're currently on bulldog number 15. Named Chesty the 15th. In boot camp, in Marine Corps boot camp, recruits sing "Good Night, Chesty" at the end of a long day. He is embedded in the fiber of the Marine Corps. And you might wonder, who was this man and how did he become an icon to a group that is one of the most elite fighting forces in the history of mankind, the United States Marine Corps? In order to find out who this man is, we are going to explore a book called Marine: The Life of Chesty Puller, written by Burke Davis. And I will go to the book.